Given the current governor's opposition to cannabis, even in the face of the will of the people, what is your stance on cannabis in Nebraska? Should we have medical, recreational, both, none, and why or why not?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I believe as a representative of the people, we need to consider the will of the people. Cannabis, especially medical cannabis, is very, very popular with many Nebraskans. I get asked this question quite frequently through my campaign travels. First and foremost, I also don't believe that the governor should ever use misinformation to push one agenda or the other, but he needs to make sure he has the right facts. And that's one thing that I differ with Governor Ricketts, is I don't believe we need to use fear-mongering to scare people into one way or the other. I personally have no skin in the game. I have no need, no use, no interest in any cannabis, but I support the will of the people. There are Nebraskans, many Nebraskans that I've talked to that have used cannabis in a medical application, that they're providing relief for their children. Children, whether they have many with potentially mental issues, nerve issues, it works. We can't get a lot of research out of it. Unfortunately, I'm still looking at the research, but we can't get a lot of research because it's still considered a Class 1 substance with the federal government. That is causing problems for us to be able to research this. That's what Nebraskans want. They have made that very, very evident. And I believe it would be amiss that if we don't make sure that we work the legislator, have a good, proper plan in place to say because I believe, and many legislators, state legislators believe, this will be on the ballot soon. We need to get ahead of this. We need to be proactive, not reactive like our government typically is, and get on top of this and say, okay, if we're going to legalize this, how is this going to look? Now, I'm talking medically at the moment, right? If we're going to legalize this, how is this going to work? How are we going to regulate this? How are we going to make sure that we don't fall into the pitfalls of some of these other states? Okay? Second, as for recreational, it's not a top priority for me. We have a lot of other issues that we need to be working on, right? I'm still doing some research on it. It is somewhat popular, not quite as popular as the medical application of it, right? I'm still doing research on it, but we have a lot of other issues we need to take care of, right? And again, I want to represent the people and what they feel is best. And again, I do believe we'll see recreational cannabis on the ballot soon, and so I want to get ahead of that curve and make sure we have a plan in place to be able to regulate that and to be able to make sure that works out for all Nebraskans.
Mrs. Thibodeau, would you like me to read the question again?
No, thank you,
Okay.
though. Well, I would say I'm just going to be a little frank. There's really no difference between medical marijuana and recreational marijuana. Medical marijuana is code word for recreational. There are medicines that can and have been proven to help with some of those illnesses that you hear people talk about. The difference between the two is on the medication, you don't get high. On marijuana, you get high. That is the difference. I'm a mom. I want my children to be safe. I don't want people running around high. I don't want my children accidentally eating a gummy and not knowing what they're eating. There are children who have gotten sick. There was just a news article last week that happened in another state. So I think we need to quit calling it medical marijuana and call it what it is, because it's probably going to be on the ballot. And as governor, I will always follow the will of the people. That is your job. But if you're going to put it on the ballot, call it what it is, because it's recreational. It's the way to do it. And I sure wish last session, the unicameral did have a chance to deal with it that would have kept it true medical, and they couldn't get it passed. And it would have put regulation on it. It would have made sure our children were safe. So if it was going to come, if we knew it was going to come into our state, the unicameral needs to do their job and deal with it. But now here we are. It'll be on the ballot. And if it passes, as your governor, again, I will respect the will of the people, but I will also ensure that we keep people safe and we don't have the addictions.
Okay. All right, Mr. Connolly.
Give me a reread.
Yes,
Slow
sir.
and clear, please.
Absolutely.
Helicopters, such a pain.
Given the current governor's opposition to cannabis, even in the face of the will of the people, what is your stance on cannabis in Nebraska? Should we have medical, recreational, both, none, and why or why not?
You know, various different people have their vices. Personally, my vice is Haagen-Dazs ice cream. I'm a non-smoker, non-drinker, and I don't really like marijuana in the field. The cows won't eat it, and then you have to go pull all that stuff out because it's sucking up all the space. But I have known several individuals. Now, I have sisters that are nurses and some that are psychologists, and they work with patients that take various different pharmaceutical drugs for mental problems. And there are many individuals that when they take the big pharma medications for mental problems, occasionally they become very violent and homicidal. In fact, if you look at the mass shootings that have happened around through the United States, the guys that are a little bit out of it, most of them were on a type of psychotic drug that they messed them up. I have seen individuals on the medical marijuana, and those guys are kind of more like this. And they don't become homicidal, they don't become really psychotic, they just kind of gel out and get kind of slow and dull and lethargic. I don't know a great deal about how they make the medical marijuana, what all the different parts of it are. Now, if they want to do recreational things, Colorado's not that far away. You know, they can go up there, they can go skiing, and they can tote a bunch and have a nice weekend or whatever. Now, me, I can get my Haagen-Dazs at Walgreens, so I'm fine with my vice of choice. But I don't know all. Did I just get yellow or white? Yellow. Okay. I don't know the specific chemical compounds. That's something that has actually never really interested me. But I do know that big pharma has a lot of medications that are just outright dangerous, and some people become extremely violent. But I have never seen nor heard of anyone ever becoming violent with medical marijuana. As for the recreational, they can take the road trip to Colorado.
Senator Lindstrom.
Thank you. Yes, I am for medicinal cannabis. I voted on it several times down in the legislature since I've been down there over the 7 years. A couple reasons that I have voted for it and had supported it. When I was walking door to door in 10,000 doors, I ran into a lot of veterans who had PTSD. And it was one of those things that got them through the day. The other group that had come down to the legislature were several moms who had children with epilepsy. And as they were seeking for medication and tried everything, that was one of those things that helped their child. And I will side with those individuals every single time. We've tried to do it in the legislature. This last year, on the day of the vote, we had 20 votes. By the end of the day, there was 31. And I do prefer that we do it in the legislature versus the ballot initiative. If it goes to the ballot, which it will, in November of next year, it's going to be a free-for-all. I prefer that we keep it in the legislature to control the dispensaries, to control the quantity that's in there, control it in the sense of pill and oil form. But I do think there is a place for it in Nebraska today with a reason, and this is near and dear to my heart. I have a family member who has struggled with opioid addiction. And to me, it's an alternative to that opioid addiction. You rarely read of anybody, if ever, somebody ODing on medicinal cannabis, but you read a lot about people ODing on prescription drugs. And to me, that is an alternative, and I will continue to support that. And I do think we have a chance this next session to pass that. We're 2 votes away.